If I stand up now, will this video stop then, or is there still a chance to figure out who the mole is? Welcome to a new Hints and Theories video, this time about episode number 2, and yeah, it's the first actual real Hints and Theories video, because last week, unfortunately, I was sick. My voice is still struggling a bit, so I'm not back to perfectly normal, but I'm sure we will make it through this video. And in case that you do not know me yet, hi, my name is Julia, and here on this channel I talk about the mole shows and present hints and theories and news. And if you're interested in that, then make sure to subscribe and follow me on Instagram. So Yip was the one who had to go home in this episode, and on the one hand I have to say that I'm a bit sad about it, because I liked her as a candidate. I thought she was really clever and really had some interesting ways to play the game. I did not really see her as the mole, but on the other hand there were a lot of people who thought that she was at least a bit suspicious, and there were already so many hints alone in that first week coming up about Yip that I'm a bit glad, to be honest, that we do not have to focus on those hints anymore, because it just makes the whole thing a bit easier. But yeah, in general, a bit sad that she had to leave, and maybe she will come back with her torpedo. Not actually in the game. I still do not believe that the people who have already left the game have a chance to come back, but I can very well imagine that they have the torpedoes for a really good reason and that they can somehow influence the game, but we will see that in the future. And with that, let's jump to task number 1. The Molympic Games. I just love that they called it like that. And I mean, have you seen the tricos? Perfect. So great. Such a cool idea, really. If Mr. Mole had merchandise, this would be it. Anyways, that task was a bit confusing, and I'm sure it was meant to be confusing. Probably not only for the candidates, but also for us. I recognize that we got to see Anna in a lot of those interview scenes. That can mean something, but at the same time maybe Anna was almost the only one who actually understood the assignment, which is why she was the one explaining it to us. Yeah, in the end it was super confusing. And speaking about Anna, of course I have to mention this. It's a typical WIDM thing that the microphone did not work. And it maybe had something to do with the rain, but in the end it worked at first and then not, and yeah, it's just, that's such a classic WIDM thing. Or anyways, Anna actually did a pretty good job, at least compared to Fons, who kind of messed up the whole thing. And in the end, they did not really know anymore which letter belonged to which other letter, and that, well, was really a total mess. And also Fons was wasting a lot of time with that, so definitely suspicious. And there's one more action, also a typical thing, and it has to do with Rian. So Case is telling her the numbers of the seats, and he says 1, 3, 5, 7, and she repeats them but mixes up one, so she says 1, 3, 5, 6, so 6 instead of 7. Typical thing, easy to mole, actually, just putting that green thing on the wrong seat. Yeah, so that could have been a mistake by her, but also a mole action. Then one more classic WIDM thing that I just have to mention here, of course, is that the production had, well, built the word mole with those green things in the beginning of the task. And of course we could interpret that as a hint that the mole is in that group. So that leaves us with Justin and with Rian, because Yip is not part of the game anymore. Yeah, I mean, if that is a hint that the mole is in that group, then of course it had to be planned beforehand. So can be, cannot be, but has to be mentioned because that's a classic. And speaking about where you could actually mole in that task, I think it was possible in both groups. So just placing the green things on the wrong seats is an easy way to sabotage. But also when you're on the field, on the ground, then just calling up wrong numbers, wrong letters. So that's possible as well. I just think you need to be one of those people with the microphones. So just by running, you couldn't really mole there, at least I don't know how. So either you're part of the group who has to place those green things on the seats, or you are responsible of, well, telling them what to do and messing things up there. And with that, let's jump to task number 2. Here we had 2 groups as well, and let's have a look at the relaxing, luxurious group at first. I have to say I had so much fun watching it because I had to laugh a lot. It was really fun. Just seeing them struggle there, I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, but of course, a few suspicious things were in there as well. So in the end, their main task was to sit on their seats and stay there. And the first one who encourages the group to stand up is Jeroen. So he says like, okay, let's go to the bar and order some drinks.
Order at the bar, please. We moeten dingen at the bar. We gaan naar de bar.
So with that, he encourages the whole group to stand up and leave the seats, and that would of course have an impact on the other group, which they did not know, but the mole would of course know that. What is a bit problematic about that whole thing is that we don't know, and also Rick did not explain that after the assignment had ended, how many people had to stay on their seats. All of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, only one person? Was it one specific seat, or was it like, did it not matter? Did it have to be those seats, or there were more possibilities to sit on that roof terrace? So yeah, that's a lot of questions. Do they have to like really sit, or is it okay to lay down? Like there was one scene in which Jeroen more or less laid over 2 of those seats. So there are a lot of question marks, and that makes of course figuring out suspicious behavior a lot more difficult for us. Then again, with the fortune teller in that group, in that task, we only got to see how she read the hands from the girls and not the boys, which is also a bit confusing, especially because the boys had the idea to ask that fortune teller what their task actually is. So, bit sad that we did not get to see that. And then there's, as I said, a scene in which, well, Jeroen tries to relax, and Kees is like, we have to do something, we have to get up. Yeah, again that we have to do something and cannot sit here behavior. If he's the mole, then that's the way to mole there. Yeah, in general I have to say, until now I do not see Kees as mole, but you never know. And the second group here, who had to climb that mountain and go on that really cool adventure. Slightly life-threatening, but cool. And they had to listen to that podcast, which were interrupted due to the other group, of course. And by the way, did you recognize, and I thought it was such a cool move, did you recognize that Ellie Lust was the one speaking in that podcast? Like, that's so cool. Like, she's the one, I'm sure if you have watched some seasons of Beast the Mole that you know Ellie. She was part of a earlier season, and then again was part of the anniversary season, and she's basically famous for telling how to use the portophones, Ethiodisciplina. And yeah, this Ellie Lust is echt, I thought it was so cool for her to return in that way to Beast the Mole for one more time, which I could imagine also has to do with the last season of the director. Maybe we get to see some other famous older candidates coming back. That would be really cool. But yeah, that just as a side note. Also, what I think is really interesting is that we're playing with higher amounts of money. So like in the first episode we had those 6,000 euros in the first task, now we had 4,000 euros in one task. That is a bit new to WIDM. We are more used to those high numbers in the Belgian demo, but maybe that also is a change which has to do with the last season of the director. Who knows? Anyway, looking at that group, of course, it was possible to more there by answering the questions incorrectly, and there definitely were incorrect answers, otherwise they would have not ended up with only 1,250 euro. So that is a possibility. There were also some questions which were definitely answered correctly, because you can Google the answers they gave, at least to some of the questions. Sometimes they just said like, I answered it correctly without even telling us what they answered. But of course to some questions we got to see the answer and we can check that online, and that proves that there were correct answers. For example, Font had correct answers and Anna as well. So there were definitely wrong ones, which weren't very clearly to see where the answers from Yip. Which is interesting because if she was the one with the incorrect answers, then it does not really help us a lot because Yip is not part of the game anymore. I also think that they talked a lot during their climb. That of course is also a way to sabotage a bit, because talking and then you're doing this activity there, so you're already focusing on climbing and then on talking, and that of course, well, distracts you from listening to the podcast. So much about that. In my book, I also wrote down that the colors of the chairs and the tables are the colors of the rainbow, which a lot of people interpret that it could probably be a hint to Justin. Can be, would be quite obvious maybe, but maybe so in your face. And also we have to talk about Justin's interesting idea to act as if there was some money stolen from the pot, and we have to question ourselves if the mole would do that in episode number 2. So he's the treasurer at the moment, and he said that there were 250 euros stolen from the pot, although he himself took them. And well, he said he wanted to confuse the group a little bit. In the end, of course, he makes himself suspicious with that and risks to lose the trust of the other people, so that's a bit risky, I think, especially in episode number 2. And we also got to know that Yip was suspecting him and most likely answered some questions in her test in the way that Justin is the mole, which could lead us to the assumption that Justin is not the mole because Yip had to leave the game, and that whole behavior with the money is a bit strange, and a mole would probably not do that. But in the last scene, Yip did not say that she had a tunnel vision. She said she had to guess a lot of the questions, which means that she did not know answers to some of the questions. That's the first thing, so we can't really say how much she actually answered in her test with Justin in the back of her head. And also what I want to talk about is what Rick said during the elimination, because that was really special, I think, and a bit weird, because he said like, you have to answer questions about each other's private life, and he basically told him to get to know each other better. So that gives me the feeling that they have not really talked that much in a private way so far, and that probably a lot of people answer private questions incorrectly. And if that is the case, then we get to the problem that maybe there is a candidate who has the right suspect, who actually is on a good way to figuring out who the mole is, but has to leave the game because that person does not know any important private information, or not enough private information to answer those questions correctly. And that is of course something that probably, yeah, changes the whole game in a way nobody expected. At least I cannot remember that Rick or any of the other hosts ever said something like that during an elimination. So it seems like in the other seasons it worked a bit better, that the candidates exchanged more private information, and so far it probably did not happen in this group. Yeah, let me know what you think about it. Just a thing I recognized and find a bit odd. And that of course can change the whole thing. So maybe Yip was on the right track and then messed up the question about the favorite drink of them all and some other private questions and had to leave the game, although she was on the right track. So yeah, let me know what you think about that, and of course about the whole episode. Have you seen any more suspicious things? Do you have any theories or hints you want to share? Then of course do that, and leave a comment below. Also, if you do not want to miss any further Hints and Theories videos, then please subscribe to this channel here and follow me on Instagram. And of course you can still join the pool in our Beast the Mole app. The link to that is in the description box below as well, so that you can be part of our little international group there. Yeah, with that we come to an end of the first real Hints and Theories video about episode number 2. I hope to see you all back next week when we will talk about episode number 3. Until then, I wish you a great week, and I hope that we will get to figure out who the mole is together. Until then, bye!